Thanks for having me. CEOs aren't supposed to lose sleep before networking events, but I do. Before this presentation, I stood in front of the mirror for 2 minutes in the Superman pose, trying to keep my nerves down. I share this because in the view of what media and glorified tech startups would have you believe is a leader, I'm not it in a lot of ways. So today, I want anyone who feels like they can't lead because they're not the life of the party or they don't fit into whatever businessy mold they're comparing themselves to know that there are more important things in entrepreneurship, especially for young women in business or those who don't yet feel confident enough to take the leap. You will often find that your ideas are too easily written off as too ambitious or too naive, and you may feel like you need to drastically change yourself in order to be successful in a modern, male-dominated business climate. Maybe you're related to this excellent short film by Pixar, Pearl, which tells the story of a young female employee who literally rethreads herself in order to try and fit in to a male office space. But like Pearl, I found that embracing your own unique style of leadership and surrounding yourself with a network of people who truly support you will lead you to great avenues of success that you never would have imagined. So let's start with a little bit about how I became a leader if I was once often too shy to speak up. In 2014, I was fresh out of college with a biochemistry degree, and I wanted to be an engineer. But I didn't want to work in health tech. Instead, I wanted to use biomimicry, the process of looking to natural strategies, to create clean tech solutions. I faced a lot of ridicule in Silicon Valley, the land of microchips, some of which certainly stemmed from ageism and sexism. And it's safe to say that my personal confidence wasn't that great. And in a last-ditch effort, I submitted a research proposal to NASA Ames to create and lead a biomimicry research project. To my shock, it was accepted. There was widespread support for the project, with over 150 people wanting to participate, and before long, we became a biotech makerspace for youth environmentalists. And while I was head of the charge, I leaned heavily on my team and mentors for advice along the adventure, and this ability to ask for help shaped me as a leader. In 2017, we incorporated and today provide all-natural modular water solutions for wastewater treatment and urban gardens. And in the sudden explosion, you can see some images of our units behind me. On your left, we have our full-size wastewater treatment unit about 6 feet tall, and then on the right is our residential water-smart herb gardens. In the sudden explosion of what would become my startup, I was suddenly thrust into a position of authority. It was a confusing whirlwind, and in a world that worships Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos for morally questionable business practices, I felt even more out of place with my team-based leadership style. But through this process, I learned that not everyone should act like Steve Jobs, and that's actually a really good thing. No one else can lead your startup, and a computer science startup is going to need a very different leader than one for vertical farming or electric cars. The truth is, most entrepreneurs are just as terrified as you, running around on sweat equity, working their butts off, but praying for a bit of luck the whole time. People who feel like the only way to put themselves up is by putting others down, by having a very narrow, specific definition of what success looks like, aren't really helping anyone, especially themselves. The whole point of being an entrepreneur is not fitting into other people's boxes. So leverage your differences as strengths and try to be the best version of yourself. Most people are more likely to respect you if you keep it real, and those who won't might not be worth your time. So define what your startup needs from you as a leader and have faith in your ability to get there. Something that will be critical along this process is the network of people you surround yourself with. Surround yourself with people who provide you constructive criticism and pay as little attention as possible to those who completely disregard your idea. Finding mentors who don't simply tear apart your work and instead provide helpful feedback is key to success. The people who believe in the potential of your technology will work with you in order to get the most out of it. Don't blindly follow your elders, and actively work to find people who push you to be a better leader while still respecting your individual leadership styles. And something that has become very pivotal for me as a leader, which I think stems from my introverted personality and young age, is moving beyond trying to always lead by example. Instead, I try to inspire others within themselves to be better for themselves and the company vision. Find people who are dedicated to the work and want to work with you. Nobody difficult, no matter their perfect qualifications, they're probably doing you and your company a disservice. Sometimes the person that's better for the job is not always the most qualified because they're more dedicated, more open to new ideas, and plainly just easier to get along with. So find passionate people who are there for themselves and the company vision and not just there for the fabled exit paycheck. If you do it right, the right team will take you farther than you as a singular leader ever would have thought. Now, I also wanted to talk a little bit about tips for direct bias to achieve success when it can feel like the whole system or culture can feel against you. And while this saying is originally from South Park, like any satire, it's funny because it has a grain of truth about our society. And people have absolutely said this to me, not knowing that the source material is Eric Carmen, to imply that women simply don't have the brains for business. But to me, the most dangerous and harmful experiences with bias are often insidiously interwoven with our everyday experiences and lives and relationships. Bias is not always going to be as overt as you expect. And it's not going to always come from the people that you expect. There will be people in your personal and professional lives who have biases that they're not even aware of. And understanding this can give you an upper hand in handling them better. A couple of key phrases that I keep in my toolbox are, why did you say blank? And what did you mean by blank? Like, why did you just double check my math? Why did you ask me when I'm going to hire the real CEO? What do you mean when you say, I'm too pretty to be smart and I should take that as a compliment? Whether or not these people are intentionally being malicious, asking these questions provides an easy way for them to be accountable and hopefully reevaluate and lead to more honest conversations. Also, do your best to always come prepared because the older generation will often assume that you're not. And if you feel like people are outright dismissing your business or your research, ask them to elaborate and express their specific concerns. You've done your homework, you know your research, there is no one better than you to address undue criticism. Yeah. Part of the joy of being a business owner is that no one can tell you how to be a leader or an entrepreneur. And these traits are not an innate ability, but a reflection of our built sense of self, grit, and the people that we surround ourselves with. So I hope this talk serves as a toolbox for those along their leadership or entrepreneurial journeys, no matter where they're starting. So the last thing I'd like to leave you with is this. Contrary to the title of this talk, don't be the CEO that your parents always wanted you to marry. That CEO is probably a jerk. So be better. Be brave enough to be different, to ask for help, to include others, and to be a new type of leader. Because in the face of climate change, we're probably not getting out of this any other way. Thank you.